In this video, we'll talk about right turns. That's coming right up. Hey, it's Shine from Zula Driving School, and let's get right into talking about right turns. Alright, right turns. So let's say you're coming up to an intersection and you want to make a right turn. Here are some things you should take into account. The first thing you want to consider is what color is the light. So if it's green, as you're approaching 3 or 4 seconds away, you signal to the right, you check your rear view mirror. So let's put these steps here. You signal, you check your rear view mirror, you check your right side mirror, and you need to do a shoulder check. You're going to shoulder check to the right, and what you're checking for is to see if there are any bikes here that you may cut off as you're making a turn. Similarly, if there's someone running towards the intersection, if you're here and you shoulder check, you want to make sure that you're not cutting off the pedestrian if they're about to enter the intersection here. Now, as long as the light is green and there is no one that you need to yield for, you can go ahead and make your turn, and you're going to turn into the first available lane, closest one to you. Now, if this one's backed up, then your first available lane would be this one. By the way, if there's a pedestrian that's walking out this way, let's say the light just turned green and this person got a walk signal and they're walking this way, you can't start making your turn saying, oh well, this guy is pretty far away, so I'll just go ahead and turn right now. The reason is because you will go and possibly the car behind you will go, and this person will be walking, and eventually they're starting to get anxious. They're wondering, who's going to wait for me? Why are they all turning right? Do they not know that I can walk right now? And then it gets confusing because who's going to be the one that's kind of finally yield for this person? So just don't do it. Also, if you've got, you got the walk signal on the pedestrian counter thing here, so you've got the walk, or sometimes you will have the hand signal. And if the hand signal is blinking, that doesn't necessarily mean that a new pedestrian will not start running for that crosswalk. So they shouldn't, but more often than not they do. So you got to make sure that you shoulder check. Let's say you ended up waiting here because a bunch of people are going through. Just before you make your turn, shoulder check to see anyone approaching that still looks like they're heading for the crosswalk. So if you're sitting here, let's say you did a shoulder check and you see people that are approaching, and so you end up waiting. That shoulder check expires, right? So if you end up sitting here for another 10 seconds, you have to do another shoulder check before you make your turn. You can't assume that it's still safe from before. Now, this is a scenario for when the light is green. Let's talk about the scenario where the light is yellow. So now, if you're approaching, if you've already entered the intersection and the light has turned yellow on you, then go ahead and make your turn, because you're technically already past the point of no return and you've got some speed, so you're going to be making your turn. But if you're approaching and the light has turned yellow, then what does yellow mean? Yellow means stop if it's safe, right? So if you don't have so much speed that you could stop here before the stop line, then that's what you need to do. Now, this becomes important because if there's another car at this intersection waiting to make a left turn, as long as the light is green and there's cars approaching, this person is going to stay in their waiting area. But when the light turns to yellow, they need to start rolling forward, and then when they see a safe gap, they're going to make their turn. If you don't obey this stop if it's safe on a yellow, then you're going to come in here and you're going to be trying to make a turn while this person makes a turn. And that's not what you want to do, because this person might turn wide on you. And you also know that, in a split second, this light is going to go from yellow to red, and this guy can't sit in the intersection anymore. So as you approach, look over. Anyone making a left turn, if they are, your light turns yellow, stop before the stop line. Unless you've already entered the intersection, then it turns yellow, then go ahead and complete your turn. Now, let's talk about when the light is red. So you come up and the light is red. When the light is red, you need to make a full stop before the stop line. Now, in BC, you can go ahead and make a right turn after you've made your full stop, unless there's a sign prohibiting you from making a left turn. So there might be a sign that says no right turns on red, and then you can't do it. But if this sign is not there, then you make your full stop and you check to see, are there any pedestrians crossing? If there are any pedestrians crossing, then you're just gonna have to wait behind that stop line. But if you look over to the left and you look over to the right and there's no pedestrian crossing, then you can creep forward to get a better viewing angle of the cars approaching. And if you're reasonably sure that these cars are far away, that you can make your turn without them having to brake for you, then you can go ahead and make your turn. Otherwise, you need to know that on a red, you're least in priority at that intersection. So you don't want to make a turn unless you're absolutely sure that it's safe. Now, you come up to this and it's a red light. You have to think, who has the green? Because it could be these guys here that have the green going straight through, or it could be these guys with a left turn signal that are about to make this turn. So if you come up to here and you see that these guys are stopped or they're coming to a stop and your light is red, think, where else could the green be? And it could possibly be these guys. And in that case, then you don't want to make your turn when these guys have an advance, because they might turn here, they might turn there. They should in theory turn here, but we don't want to be threading the needle and turning with them at the same time. Now, talking about threading the needle, it's the same thing with making a right turn when there's vehicles approaching. So let's say that you came up, made your full stop at a red light, you checked there was no pedestrians crossing or approaching to cross, and you crept forward to get a better viewing angle of this road, and you see that this lane is clear from afar, but there's a car in this lane that's approaching. You probably don't want to make your right turn if this car is pretty close. You want 2 available lanes at least before you can make your turn. Why? Because this person could change lanes at the last second, and now they're going to be in the same lane as you. So you want to be mindful that if your turn usually takes 3 or 4 seconds to make, that this car or these 2 lanes at least have 6 seconds of distance between you and the car approaching. So it gives you some time to make a turn, and by the time you get back up to speed, you're not going to have to slow this vehicle down for your turn. Now, if you come up here and you see that there's a bike lane beside you, sometimes at certain intersections, this bike lane, which is usually a white solid line running beside your vehicle, becomes a dotted white line. If it's the case like that, then when you signal mirror, mirror, shoulder check, if there's no bike in this bike lane, you can angle your car like so you're better prepared to make that turn. So what I'm saying is, it's hard to make a sharp 90-degree turn, but if you're coming up at a slight angle, then it's easier to make that turn. Anytime you're coming up to a right turn, you want to be more or less pointing a little bit in the direction that you want to turn into. Another point I want to make is that on a red, you're not obligated to make your right turn. You can sit here and wait until the light is green and then check to see if there's any pedestrians crossing and then make your turn. So if you're going for your road test and you don't want to have to figure out how far is this car that is approaching, are there 2 available lanes, are these cars turning left, you can just sit here and wait until you get a green light. Now, if the car behind you honks as to let you know that why aren't you going, there's a safe gap, you don't have to go. Right now it's your turn at that intersection, so you make the judgment call. If they are being very persistent and they keep honking, what you could do is just cancel your signal, and you're pretty much telling them, okay, I'm going straight. And then when the light turns green, put your signal back on, check to see if it's safe, and make your turn. So it's up to you if you want to make a right turn on a red. So I hope this video has been useful to you. If you liked it, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Now, it's one thing for me to stand here in front of a whiteboard and draw lines talking about right turns. It's another for you to get out there with your driving instructor or your co-ed driver and put this into practice yourself. I hope to see you in another video soon.